Welcome to my talk about Clj-kondo. Clj-kondo is a linter for Clojure, and a linter is a tool to detect silly problems in your code that you would have caught maybe in production or in CI, but you would like to catch them already when you're typing in your editor, because yeah, it's just a waste of time to make silly mistakes, of course. So Clj-kondo is a linter for Clojure, and the name for Clj-kondo, if it's not obvious enough already, is derived from Marie Kondo. And Marie Kondo is a Japanese organizing consultant, and her philosophy is maybe your life could be happier if you remove stuff from your life that you don't actually need and stuff that doesn't actually spark joy. That's her phrase. Yeah, I think it's a nice philosophy. It's also a bit of a hype, but some hypes are worth buying into. So maybe if you don't like reading books, you can check her out on Netflix. Just watch one episode to get the idea. So there are multiple Clojure linters already. So there is Eastwood, which runs on the JVM. There is Joker, which is a binary, which is written in Go. What I personally like about Joker is that it's very fast. It starts very fast, and you can use it in your editor, and you get very fast feedback. But the issue that I had with either linter was too slow, or it was very fast and didn't have all the things that I wanted. So I tried looking into, can I maybe contribute to one of these linters? Maybe my favorite one was Joker. But the issue was it's written in Go, and I don't know Go, and I like to write in Clojure. So I wondered maybe I can just do this in Clojure myself and get a similar linter like Joker. So it's very much inspired by Joker. It tries to be as complete as Joker and have some additional useful linting rules. So the first rule that I wanted personally was to catch when you write a function foo, and you define a var inside this function. That's not idiomatic Clojure, but it's something I do sometimes for debugging. Don't tell anyone, but I capture the input of the function foo in the var and then inspect the var in the REPL and then remove it afterwards. But sometimes I forget to remove it afterwards, so that is where the linter comes in. So that was the first rule that I wanted to write, and I did a little bit of fiddling around, and I tried Clojure on GraalVM to get a very fast startup using a binary. And the parsing of the Clojure code I did with rewrite CLJ, which is a tool based on Tools Reader. And this worked very well for me. So implementing more linting rules was a lot of fun. So yeah, I got the hang of it. So how does rewrite CLJ work? Very briefly. What I like about this approach is that invalid code is still data. Even when you have a map that has two duplicate keys, so here is a map with the keyword A 2 times. If you actually type this in the REPL, you get an error. You cannot even parse this as Eden, but with rewrite CLJ you can parse this string, and what you get is not an Eden value, but something called a node, which represents this Eden value. So it's it's an intermediate format between the string and the Eden value. So it's more elaborate value, which can also tell you where this value in the string was defined. So if something goes wrong, I can look at this metadata on this value and report where this went wrong, and this is how you get feedback in your editor. So this is how rewrite CLJ works, basically. The library is not very actively maintained. I never got a reply from the original author. But it's no problem. It's open source, so I just took this source and made my own tweaks to it to make it fit with what I wanted in Clj-kondo, and yeah, it works well. So one of the linting features, the first linting features was inline def. This is how it will look in your editor. So I already kind of showed this. This seems like a trivial hint, and but even a trivial hint like this can save you a lot of time. One example, Daniel, who gave a lecture here yesterday, who gave a talk here about Clojure and R, he reached out on Twitter and he said, "Thank you for Clj-kondo. It just saved me it gave me a hint how I could solve a bug that I was struggling with for already a few hours." And because he made a mistake in his editor by wrapping like a function inside another function, basically. And Clj-kondo gave a hint about this. So even tiny hints like this can prevent you from making other silly mistakes. One thing that Clj-kondo does well, I think, is reporting Arity errors. Joker already did this, but what Clj-kondo does is it can relate multiple namespaces in different files. So suppose that namespace 1 is defined in file 1 and namespace 2 is defined in file 2. You're calling a function from file 1 in file 2. Even then, Clj-kondo can warn about this, even when you're only editing file 2 in your editor. And it does this through a cache. So when it has seen function foo for the first time, it saves the Arity information and possibly other information to a cache directory. And if you then use it from some other place, it's able to get this information from the cache and then report the error for you. So again, you will get these kinds of errors also when you execute the code in your REPL, of course. But it's nice to catch them maybe even earlier. So this is one example from Glenn from CircleCI, who caught an Arity error in a path that was unlikely to hit. And yeah, so you would have caught this maybe in production, yeah, but now you can catch it at lint time and not at runtime. So one other problem with that I sometimes run into with Clojure and REPL-driven development, or REPL-assisted development, is that your REPL gets out of sync with what is in your source. So your REPL gets a little bit messy. This is an example from last week from my work. So I had an inline def somewhere, and I used the temporary var somewhere, but I forgot to remove the reference to the temporary var, while I did already remove the inline def. And then I restarted my REPL and got a huge stack trace. And there was an error at the bottom, unable to resolve symbol C at this line, but it didn't tell me in which file. So then I thought, well, Clj-kondo can also reason about this. And I linted my source directory, and it reported this error as well, but then including the file. And this is like, in a few seconds, I found where the error was. So it can help you with these kinds of problems. One other thing that Clj-kondo can do, I won't highlight all the features, I don't have time for this, but just a few. So it can report unused function and let bindings, function argument bindings and let bindings. So here we have a let expression, which introduces a name x bound to value 1. And, well, we don't actually use this x in this expression, so it's unused. You can remove this if you want. But this is actually caused by something else. I made a typo at the end, which is x accent. And so it's just a typo, and therefore it's unused. But this is also reported by Clj-kondo. The symbol x accent is also unresolved. So often these go hand in hand. So if you made a typo, something is unused and unresolved at the same time. Useful hints, I think. And yeah, maybe in the Marie Kondo spirit, it also tells you like what you can remove from your code, what's not necessary. So here we introduce an extra let binding or extra let nesting that is not necessary. And sometimes I get this when the code becomes large and doesn't fit all on one screen, and you want to introduce a name, and then you just type let, but you were already in let, but you didn't know that. So now you see it. One maybe more useful feature is when you write tests without the is macro or the R macro, you're not actually getting feedback from Clojure test that your test failed, because nothing is actually tested. So if you just write a test with a predicate and then odd one, yeah, okay, that's nice. But nothing is, if one was not odd, hypothetically, you would not have caught this. So rep an is around this, and that's it. Clj-kondo also has some style recommendations. So refer all. It is possible, but I'm not a big fan of it, because when I read this in readmes, for example, from projects, I always wonder where is this name coming from and where is that name coming from. I'd rather see like an alias or explicitly referring the vars. And this Clj-kondo not only tells you do it otherwise, but it also tells you how to do it otherwise. So in this case, it tells you, well, you are already using dev test is and testing from Clojure test, so maybe use that. Yeah, and that helped me to get rid of this all. Yeah, some other stuff that Clj-kondo can help you with when you're cleaning up your namespace declarations. So you're referring vars that you're not actually using, so you can also remove those. So here we have reframe.core, and you're referring to dispatch. So, but dispatch is not actually used. You might want to remove it. Or reagent.core is not used at all, and Clojure string is not used at all. So you can just remove those clauses from the require. And this is how it looks if you clean it up. So. Clj-kondo has a basic form of type checking. It's still not Haskell, but so the type checking in Clj-kondo works like if it is sure you made a mistake, then it will report it, and if it's unsure you made a mistake, then it won't report it. So it's so in Haskell you have to prove that something is right, but Clj-kondo will just back off if it doesn't know the types. So here we have map. And I have made this mistake more than once. So you start typing map, and you start typing a function with multiple expressions in it. And finally you finish the function, and then you think you're done. Oh, okay, and let's pass this expression to first or something. And that doesn't work because map with a function returns a transducer. And first doesn't work with transducers, but first expects a seekable collection. So this only works because Clj-kondo knows the return type of map, and it knows the argument type of first. And if it doesn't know that, you won't get a warning like this. It is already possible to add type information for your own library, for your own custom functions. But this is a little bit in progress. So the format for this is not really set in stone yet. But I encourage you to try it out and give some feedback about this. But for Clojure core and Clojure string and Clojure set, there are already these type annotations. So you get that for free. Clj-kondo has editor support for all major editors, Emacs, VS Code, IntelliJ, etc. And I'm very happy that people who were using the other editors that I'm not using had provided like the instructions how they set it up, and that's all in the README on GitHub. So that should work. There's a nice plugin for VS Code called Clojure lint, Clojure-lint, and that works with Clj-kondo. So, one important concept in Clj-kondo is the Clj-kondo directory, which is optional. You don't have to do this, but it's nice if you introduce this to your project if you want to get better linting. So the .clj-kondo directory can have a config.eden file where you can configure all the linters. So you can turn on or off certain linters, or you can change the level of the linters. So maybe you want errors instead of warnings, or maybe you don't want errors at all, but you just want info. So this also influences the exit code of Clj-kondo, so you can use that in CI if you want. Clj-kondo also has a cache directory. I briefly spoke about this, where it saves all the Arity information from your libraries. But it first has to see these functions from your libraries. So you can do that with what's on the last line, Clj-kondo lint, and then you just pass the entire class path that is produced by, for example, toolsdep's CLI. So that works. One example of configuration. This is a macro from Manifold called letFlow, and the idea is that you can pass in deferred values instead of normal values, and it will just work. But Clj-kondo doesn't know about this macro out of the box, so it just thinks this is a normal function. So, okay, the function deferred some, and then we have some other function that I don't know, and then we have a variable named A, which comes out of nowhere for Clj-kondo. So it's unresolved. But we know that letFlow has exactly the same syntax as Clojure let. And we can let Clj-kondo know about this via the configuration. So we say lint as manifold divert letFlow, Clojure core let. And now it just works. All right. So Clj-kondo also has analysis export. So it analyzes your code. It knows about all this information. But this information might be useful for other tools as well. So you can export this information to an Eden format or JSON format if you want. This is one example. So here we have a namespace called my.code and one function foo, which has an arity of 1. And we use a function called number from Clojure core and inc. And this information all gets exported to what you see below. It will be a huge blob of Eden, but you can do nice things. There are a couple of examples, like I think 5 examples in the README of how you can use this information to implement your own linters on top of what's already in Clj-kondo. And this might end up in Clj-kondo later, but you can already do your own thing with this. Like maybe detecting if private functions are never used in the same namespace, so you can just remove them, for example. But that is something I plan to support in Clj-kondo as well. So who uses Clj-kondo? Well, some person at each of this company uses Clj-kondo, so maybe not a company-wide policy. But this tool exists for half a year now, and yeah, quite a lot of people are already using it. And I'm very happy with the feedback I'm getting from these people, because it only makes this linter better. One goal of Clj-kondo is to support well-known macros in the community, because that is the problem with static analysis. I don't get macro expansion for free. So, but I am planning to support all, the well-known macros, like Clj-kondo knows about schema.core defen macro, for example. And that is because of all these users, because I'm not using this macro myself, but I've had like 3 users report, I would like support for this. And this influences what what the future of Clj-kondo is. If your company also uses Clj-kondo, you can add your company to the list, and well, maybe it's also a nice place to look for a Clojure job. I don't know if you are looking for one. This is my talk. Thank you. There are stickers of Clj-kondo for free in the back, but you can also approach me and ask questions and get a sticker. So thank you very much.
Hi, thank you for Clj-kondo. If I want to add support for macro that's not supported out of the box, I cannot do it through the config, right? So the best thing is to send a pull request, or?
Yes, if you have a macro that has the same syntax, you can do it with the linters configuration, of course, and if it is a macro that is well established in the community, I'm happy to support it. And if it's like an obscure macro that only one person uses, then we have to talk, I think, in a GitHub issue. Oh.
Thank you for the awesome tool we are using and we are really enjoying. The last version we used doesn't link anything related to imports, namespace imports, or Java classes specifically. Is there any technical limitation of Clojure of the reader, or is something that we could also add with as a rule?
So you're talking about Java imports?
Yes, inside the NS colon import stuff.
And what is the question about that?
It works really great with requires.
Yeah.
But
okay.
not with import.
So unused imports, for example. Yeah, that's something that's not implemented yet, but that will be supported. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Pull request welcome as well.
So I saw that for some of the linters, you're able to do recommendations, and presumably for a lot of them you could, like even the nested lets. Is that something that might be like more generalizable, so that you can just in some way say apply the recommendation?
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be something that Clj-kondo supports, because that is editor specific, or it would be another tool that rewrites your entire Clojure file. But right now, that's not something that is on the table for Clj-kondo.
Is the information there though?
Well, there is information about where this error is.